Yeah, but I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit. For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Becker's.
No way.
I didn't even say anything bad.
The voices are growing louder. Frustration has reached a boiling point. And now, the unthinkable is being said out loud across social media and sports forums everywhere. Sophie Cunningham supporters have had enough. They're no longer whispering, they're demanding. Demanding that she stop being silenced by an organization more interested in controlling the narrative than in protecting its athletes or allowing honest conversations about what's really happening behind closed doors.
Spoke about the league, but more importantly, she stated she got another fine for actually talking about Paige Beckers. Now, we all ultimately know what happened last time. She had her podcast. She let it be known that Paige Beckers got that blue blood whistle, bro. And make a long story short, she stated the WNBA fined her for that. And she spoke about Bree Hartley. She also talked about Caitlin Clark rehab. But guys, it's unfortunate that she will be out for the remainder.
The outrage is spreading like wildfire. Fans are rallying behind Cunningham, insisting she keeps speaking out, because if the WNBA is really fining players simply for voicing their opinions, then something is deeply broken. At this point, it's no longer just about basketball. It's about a league that seems to have forgotten what free speech even means, especially when it comes from the very athletes who give the league its heartbeat.
So lads, the WNBA have done it. They have done it. They have officially fined Sophie Cunningham every podcast episode. They have fined her because Sophie Cunningham has been fined. I'm not joking. She's been fined for a TikTok. She's been fined now, I think, for the third time for a podcast. I think Sophie Cunningham might be the all-time leader in fines in the WNBA. So let's take a listen.
Sophie Cunningham, the player many now see as the unfiltered voice of women's basketball, has broken her silence on what she calls a systematic campaign to fine her into submission. Her message cuts to the core of everything wrong with how the WNBA is being run. What began as straightforward, honest commentary on her podcast has spiraled into a full-blown battle over transparency, and Cunningham is making it clear she won't be silenced.
They are not protecting their players. Nobody's going to watch this if you're not protecting your star players. You're not protecting your players, period, but particularly your star players. No one's going to watch this. People are watching it because of Caitlin Clark, and then even more because of Sophie Cunningham. And if you're going to just hang them out to dry, then, good. Nobody's going to watch this anymore because they don't protect their players. It's a worthless organization. They have no idea how to protect their players. But, oh man, they're going to bitch and moan. Well, you better pay us the money. For what? You can't even protect your star players that draw the eyeballs. Now nobody's watching. Nobody's going to watch to see the star players sitting out with injuries because of poor treatment and poor officiating on the sides. Nobody's going to watch that.
If you're enjoying this, don't forget to subscribe. What should have been just another podcast episode about basketball and life turned into the latest chapter in the WNBA's ongoing battle to control its own narrative. Sophie Cunningham launched her podcast, Show Me Something, with co-host Wes Wilson to have real, unfiltered conversations about the league she represents. But instead of open dialogue, she quickly learned that speaking truth to power in the WNBA comes with a steep price.
She has turned herself into a top 5 most talked about player in the WNBA. And can I tell you, I am loving the clips that are coming out of this podcast. There's just so much fascinating elements of her that make her this really alpha, really strong, but really beautiful, spicy villain. And I think she kind of likes being the villain.
I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA, Cunningham admitted on her latest podcast episode, her tone heavy with the frustration of someone watching an organization value control over honesty. They didn't like my comments on Paige Beckers. I didn't even say anything bad. But this time was different. This time, Sophie decided she wasn't going to be silenced. The fines, which feel more like intimidation than correction, only fueled her resolve. Episode after episode, she's paid the price for speaking freely, raising the uncomfortable question, is honest discourse even possible in today's WNBA?
I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit! For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Beckers.
No way!
I didn't even say anything bad.
On the whistle? On the quick whistle?
Yeah. But like, why? Like,
If we want to talk about Paige, here's a good question.
They fined her for saying Paige Beckers has a good whistle. Like, I kid you not, that is one of the craziest reasons I've seen a player get fined.
What happened next was nothing short of unprecedented in WNBA history. Just days after Cunningham exposed the league's fine structure, fans began rallying behind her, not just as a player, but as a fearless truth-teller willing to speak out no matter the cost. Social media lit up with support, dubbing her the voice of honesty, and demanding the WNBA stop silencing players who don't fit its preferred narrative. When Sophie Cunningham finally addressed the relentless pattern of fines shadowing every single episode of her podcast, her words sliced through the usual polished diplomacy that surrounds league controversies, sharp, direct, and impossible to ignore.
There's something seriously wrong with how the W enforces their rules. And I know there's already been a big emphasis on referee inconsistencies, but at the end of the day, the quality of referees is on the WNBA too. Because again, I have no idea where the line is. Because on one hand, I kind of get it. It's normal for a league to fine you if you're going to talk bad about the league or the players in the league. Because that happens all the time in the NBA, NFL, and so on. But on the other hand, why does the league not care about its image when players are standing over and cursing out their opponents on the court? Like, where was the enforcement here? Or where was it here? Or where was it when the whole entire league was bullying your star player? And this stuff is happening all the time in the WNBA, but why is it only called on occasion? Which is why finding Sophie Cunningham every time she has a podcast seems kind of crazy, because the WNBA obviously chooses when and when not to enforce the.
Here's what makes Cunningham's situation downright alarming: she isn't being fined for saying anything false, reckless, or inflammatory. She's being punished for voicing the kind of basic, common-sense observations about officiating and league operations that any fan, analyst, or broadcaster could make on a nightly basis. The WNBA has built a system where honest commentary about its own product is treated as a crime, truth is irrelevant, intent doesn't matter, and the penalty is always financial, and the numbers tell the story of a campaign that feels systematic, not coincidental. Cunningham was fined $500 for a TikTok where she simply lip-synced lyrics while referencing referees. She was fined another $1,500 for remarks about officiating consistency in the very first episode of her podcast. Most recently, she was slapped with yet another fine, this time undisclosed, for daring to point out what millions of fans were already saying, that Dallas Wings rookie Paige Beckers seemed to be getting favorable whistles.
Do they put like verbatim, like quote here, like this is why you're being fined and this is why it's this much? Or is it like, hey, quit talking shit on us, Venmo us like 1,500?
What happens is they email our GM, and she pulls me aside and she goes, "Come here, Soph, I have to talk to you." And this was in like front of everybody. And I was like, "What did I do now?" And she just smiled and she goes, "Hey, they're going to fine you again." They're like, I was like, I even told them, I even credited them that their job was hard. I did say that. And I said that I would not be good at it. I did say that. Like, look at the whole picture. What are we doing?
Let's be honest about what's really at stake here. This isn't about protecting league standards or preserving reputations. This is about an organization so obsessed with controlling its image that it's willing to financially punish its own athletes for saying what fans, analysts, and even legends of the game say every single night. The WNBA's treatment of Cunningham is nothing short of disgraceful. Instead of addressing the very real concerns she's raised, about officiating consistency, expansion priorities, and basic league operations, the league has chosen to enforce what amounts to a financial gag order. Think about that. Rebecca Lobo herself has gone on record acknowledging issues with officiating, yet when a current player raises the exact same points, she's hit with immediate financial penalties. And here's the chilling reality Cunningham's case exposes: the WNBA has built an environment where players are afraid to speak honestly about their own league. Where truth-telling comes with a price tag, and silence is the only safe option,
Cunningham tweeted about getting fined, basically saying that she thinks it's laughable and that the league probably has bigger issues they should be focusing on. Now, WNBA officiating has faced major scrutiny all season long from some of the league's biggest stars and coaches. You can find a ton of articles about it online where they're all calling for more consistency. One of the more quotable examples came from Angel Reese after the Chicago Sky lost to the Minnesota Lynx on July 6th. Reese said that the officiating has to be fixed. She said, "I don't give a you-know-what if I get fined because that stuff is cheap and I'm tired of this stuff." You get the point. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert addressed the officiating ahead of the All-Star game last weekend. She said that it is something that the league is continuing to work on and that they are on it. Engelbert mentioned
Cunningham's decision to keep speaking, even as the fines pile up, has pulled the curtain back on a system built not to correct mistakes, but to crush dissent. "You fining me $500 isn't going to do anything. Then I'll get fined for that, and then I'll get fined for this, and the fines will continue," she declared on her podcast. Proof she knows exactly what the league is trying to accomplish. This isn't a player who stumbled into controversy. This is someone making a deliberate choice, transparency over silence, truth over financial comfort. And the reaction from fans has been explosive. Social media was flooded with comments like, "This league is so effed up, I hate the WNBA so much at times. Sophie, keep calling out their nonsense." The message is clear. Fans aren't just rallying behind Cunningham, they're turning against a league they now see as fundamentally dishonest.
She'll happily pay those fines. I think they're only fining like $200 or something. It's something crazy. Like Sophie Cunningham is making millions this year. Players don't get fined for speaking on one another, but every single player in the history of pro basketball has criticized officiating and been fined for it. No, she keeps doing the same thing, getting fined for it. She literally said Paige is a good whistle. That is what she said. She said Paige, the Paige fans, my God, Paige fans are fucking nut jobs.
From a business perspective, the WNBA's approach borders on self-sabotage. Sophie Cunningham has quickly become one of the league's most engaging personalities, building a massive social following, hosting a podcast that fans treat as must-listen, and offering the kind of authentic perspective that every sports league dreams its players will provide. Instead of embracing her as a marketing gift, the league has decided to treat her like a problem to be managed. The contrast with other leagues couldn't be starker. When NBA players criticize officiating, fines happen, yes, but they're proportional to multi-million-dollar salaries, and usually follow genuinely inflammatory remarks. In the WNBA, players are being docked hundreds or even thousands of dollars for comments that wouldn't raise an eyebrow in any other sport, but here's the real danger. The fines aren't the story, the fear is. Cunningham's case has sent a message to the entire player base that honest discourse comes with a price tag. Multiple insiders have admitted that they share her concerns about officiating and league operations, but they're staying silent, terrified of being the next example. In trying to muzzle one outspoken voice, the league has created a chilling effect that stifles the very authenticity fans are begging for.
She literally, when I tell you, y'all, I literally feel like they are just coming for her because I feel like she should be able to say what she wants to say on her podcast. But that's just me. That's just how I feel. Then they came and then it came an earlier $500 penalty. I guess for a TikTok video, she was mocking the referees and lip singing. That was funny. So now I got a question for y'all. Do you think that she should be able to say what she wants on her own podcast? Or do you feel like, she should just shut it down and, stop bothering them with all this?
The truth is, Sophie Cunningham's fans now have something the WNBA can't control: options. They've already shown they'll rally around her podcast for the authenticity and honesty the league itself refuses to provide. The question isn't whether her supporters will stick with her if the fines keep piling up. They will. The real question is whether the WNBA can survive the reputational damage it's doing to itself by silencing its most authentic voice. Cunningham's willingness to eat financial penalties just to speak freely has given fans something they didn't even know they were missing: a player who refuses to bow to league intimidation. But her fight has also exposed just how broken the system is. When financial punishment becomes the league's first response to commentary, when fans celebrate a player more for telling the truth than for her on-court performance, when social media blows up over fines instead of game highlights, that's not discipline. That's dysfunction. At this point, the WNBA hasn't just mishandled a player. They've lost the plot entirely.
The amount of traction that episode was getting, folks were saying that she could pay that off just from her YouTube monetization. And so this is just interesting because I've said before that I really wish the WNBA as well as other sports leagues would lean in to the athlete-owned media platforms, because fans are a lot more interested in hearing the perspective of people who actually play the sport than just spectators and people on the outside. So the fact that they are penalizing her for showcasing her frustrations, even though tons of players have done this, post-game interviews or just talked about it on the internet in general, is very interesting.
The WNBA has managed to turn what should have been a celebration of player authenticity into a cautionary tale of organizational overreach. Sophie Cunningham's Show Me Something podcast could have been exactly what the league needs: authentic, behind-the-scenes insight from someone who lives the game every day. Instead of embracing it, the league has chosen to treat her voice as a threat. We're now at a tipping point where the WNBA's obsession with silencing Cunningham risks blowing up in its face. The pattern is undeniable. Every new episode seems to trigger a fresh fine, as if the league office is more worried about what she might say than about fixing the problem she's pointing out. It's a strategy that reeks of paranoia, the most telling part. This whole saga has exposed the league's utter inability to handle authentic player voices. They're sitting on a gold mine, athletes who understand the product better than anyone in the boardroom and who fans actually want to hear from. But instead of leveraging that, the WNBA has built a system of financial punishment that makes honesty a liability.
So the entire league can talk shit about Caitlin, but Sophie can't talk shit to Paige. No. And that's the funniest thing, is that Angel Reese can say some people have a special whistle about Caitlin Clark in a public press conference. And it's selective fining. That's the problem. Like, Kelsey Plum has not been fined this year, and Kelsey Plum has literally just stopped entire press conferences to complain about the referees. Apparently, Stephanie White didn't get fined when Marina Mabrey knocked Caitlin on her ass, and then Sophie Cunningham took down JC Sheldon. Apparently, Stephanie White didn't get, and Mazian did not get fined for both of them going mad at the referees.
Sophie Cunningham has remained remarkably composed throughout this ordeal, continuing to deliver thoughtful commentary even as the fines pile up for nothing more than honest observations. But let's be clear, no player should be expected to absorb endless financial punishment just for telling fans what they're already seeing with their own eyes. The writing is on the wall. Fans are rallying behind Cunningham's right to speak freely. Media figures are openly questioning the league's priorities. Players are quietly watching, wondering if authentic discourse is even possible in this environment. And yet, the WNBA leadership continues to operate as if silencing its most authentic voice is somehow good for business. What Cunningham has given fans is something the league itself couldn't manufacture: a player willing to tell the truth, regardless of the consequences. But even the most dedicated truth teller can't fix systemic problems alone. She can't change a culture that treats honesty as a threat. She can't force an organization to embrace transparency when it's hellbent on controlling every narrative.
Only is going to push her even more to share her perspectives and share her point of view. And that's going to get her some partnerships. That's going to get her business opportunities, because again, nobody really knows what these players go through unless you're in their position. Unless you're in that position. For those who don't know, she plays for the Indiana Fever. But I love that she is voicing her concerns. I think the only way for change to happen is for you to vocalize what needs to be changed and to have it at the forefront. And she just may be the person to help further push these types of conversations ahead. So listen, let's all support Sophia, watch the first episode. And I'm excited to see what else she's talking about, because
The tragic irony is that the WNBA had everything it could have asked for in Sophie Cunningham's podcast: an authentic voice from inside the league, engaging content that drew real fan interest, and commentary that sparked meaningful discussion about the product on the court. Instead of embracing this organic bridge between players and fans, the league chose to treat it as a threat, managing it through fines and financial intimidation. That what's happening to Cunningham isn't just about money or commentary. It's about whether the WNBA wants to be an organization that amplifies authentic voices or one that silences them. And right now, their choice speaks louder than any words. Fans see it. They're taking note. And they're questioning whether the league's priorities are aligned with the growth and authenticity they've been demanding for years.